Warning, this podcast contains violence, sexuality, gore, and other horrible and disturbing things. Listener discretion is advised. Also, the hosts of this venture are ignorant dipshits, so please do not take anything they say as fact. And enjoy the show.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be.
The atoms in your left hand probably came from a different star than your right hand.
It is our basic human right to be fuck up.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The defendant shall be incarcerated for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Occultae Veritatis.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Occultae Veritatis. I am Sage Murray.
Leon Vilger.
Ood Gallifrey.
And joining us in studio,
Lord Loki.
And
special guest robot, Lord Loki. That's dope.
Thank you.
All right, so before we get into the this is a classic Sage episode. It's super gross. It's about the Dnipropetrovsk Maniacs, who are serial killers in Ukraine. Let's do What's Your Poison?
What's your poison?
So, what's your poison?
So, what's your poison?
What is our poison?
Went to a trip to Jamaica a couple years ago, picked up a bag of Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee, and I know somebody's going to give me grief out there for this, but it's been sitting in my freezer ever since.
Oh, don't freeze your
you're
beans.
not supposed to freeze it.
Refrigerate them.
Daniel works You're supposed to know better.
Your partner works at Starbucks.
I blame Daniel.
It's delicious. Man. It's very smooth.
Yeah, but it's Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee, or Jamaican Mountain coffee. It's a classification of coffee that's grown in the Blue Mountains of Jamaica.
I like it.
I thought you were just giving me coffee. I didn't know. That's for what's your poison.
Yeah, you just shot it.
I didn't even really pay attention to it.
I had a cup of this. The last time I had this was 2013. This exact coffee at a coffee shop in downtown Bellingham, Washington.
Cool.
And I paid $12 for a cup of it, and it was incredible, and it's still pretty darn good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the air of it coming from Jamaica makes it seem like more exotic and special to me or something like that. But yeah, it tastes pretty good to me. I don't know how biased I'm being though.
Yeah. It's harvested by slaves.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't like that.
Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, my dad always bought this though.
Yeah,
yeah, used to it. It's pretty good.
It's good. Yeah. You don't need anything in it.
I would drink a pot of it.
I
would drink more than one pot of it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, if you're a lover of just drinking black coffee, this is the real stick to the rib type stuff. This is
good.
Yeah.
So I would rate it a 10 out of 10 because I love coffee.
Yeah.
I'll go for 10 out of 10.
Yeah. If there's one thing I love more than weed, it's coffee. So, yeah, anything with THC and it's hot is good by me.
I basically just categorize coffees into bad coffees and good coffees.
Yeah.
And there's a definite line.
There's a pass-fail.
There's a definite pass-fail, and this is definitely a pass. But as for degree, I don't know.
It gets a pass.
It's a solid pass.
Lord Loki.
I don't drink coffee that much, but Blue Mountain coffee, it's really good. Very, very tasty.
Is there actually a Blue Mountain?
Yeah, the Jamaican Blue Mountains.
I realize that, but are they blue?
It only looks blue when you've smoked enough.
Yeah, it's just because of how high it's up in the atmosphere there.
I believe you.
That blue look.
Blue look.
Kind of like, are they like cloud mountains and all that?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Oh, that's pretty nice.
I haven't been there for a long time. Only when funerals happen. So.
Oh no.
That's fair. Content warning. This episode contains horrible, graphic, gory things done to people. The descriptions themselves are disturbing enough, and us describing the video and the crimes committed gets even more hairy, so be advised.
First, so this morning in Ukraine, the investigation's been completed now into a string of violent murders that shocked the city of Dnipropetrovsk. 3 young men were arrested a year ago and have now been charged with 21 killings. The former classmates who came from prosperous families allegedly admitted that they committed the crimes just for fun. Yulia Popova reports.
Over 20 murders in 1 month. Rumours spread of a mania killing young and old paralyzed one of the largest cities in Ukraine, Dnipropetrovsk. Police, however, link the reign of terror to these teenagers. They're not revealing how they killed them, but with mobile phone footage of some of the murders, officers have little doubt of the identity of the criminals.
We think they were doing it like a hobby, to have a collection of memories when they get old.
The former classmates have been behind bars for almost a year now. It's thought they pleaded guilty to all the murders. Detectives say that when targeting anyone in particular, they just pick people who look like they wouldn't fight back.
So, the Dnipropetrovsk, oh my god.
Can we Google the pronunciation of that or something?
It's Dnepropetrovsk. I low-key speak Ukrainian.
Oh.
They were Ukrainian serial killers who had a ton of murders in that city. The murders took place in June and July of 2007, so it's still pretty. It's pretty recent.
I thought it was like in the 90s.
No,
Wow.
2007. I was like 20.
How many was it altogether?
21.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, 21 murders.
That is a spree.
Yeah. Oh, definite spree. So, the 2 killers were named Viktor Sayenko and Igor Saprunyuk. Yeah.
Sounds made up.
No, it's not made up.
Okay.
They were 19 years old, and the case kind of gained a bunch of notoriety because they actually took video of their murders and uploaded it onto YouTube.
Yeah, and it became notorious for a rite of passage for, kids in high school to watch the video.
That's pretty gangster.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a third guy whose name was Alexander Hanza, but he was only charged with armed robbery. He never actually killed anyone.
Was he operating the camera or what?
No, he was part of like a hit and run kind of thing. He didn't actually kill anyone. Okay, so the first 2 murders occurred late on the 25th of June in 2007. The first victim was a woman who was 33 years old, and her name was Katerina L Chenko. She was basically like walking home from hanging out at her friend's apartment, and one of the dudes, Saprunyuk, had a hammer. So as Ilchenko walked past, this kid spun around with his hammer and smoked her in the head. And her body was found by her mother in the morning at 5 a.m.
Jesus.
But then within an hour of the first murder, these two kids killed their second victim, who was Roman Tatrovich, as he slept on a bench near the first murder scene. So he was just like a homeless guy, and they just bludgeoned him.
Just going from person to person.
Yeah, they just like smashed him in the face so much that he was rendered unrecognizable.
Yeah, and that's one of the ones that's shown in the video, right?
Yeah.
Is this video still available?
Yeah.
Fuck,
now, I wanna caution people out there, because this sounds like an internet meme, but you can very well get trauma and possibly PTSD from viewing some videos on the internet.
Don't do it.
There's some things so depraved that they can deal you trauma just by you watching to them, and this video is among them.
Yeah, I don't recommend watching them.
I think the rule is that the drunker you are, the sicker shit you can put up with without getting scarred.
Generally.
There's a lot of subreddits for stuff like that, and I really actually kind of try to avoid them specifically.
Yeah.
I'm still amazed that YouTube still has the video up and running.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's on YouTube. I think it's probably on one of those like gore sites.
Live Leak or whatever.
Yeah.
Goatsy.
Yeah.
Goatsy. Remember that.
Well, that's not.
That's like as small potatoes compared to this shit.
That's a different kind of carnage.
Yeah. So
we need to do an entire episode on like dirty old shit like
where we
Goatsy
just
and Two Girls One
Meat
Cup.
Spin.
Just look at the old shot.
Tub Girl.
Yeah.
Pain Olympics.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ass Glass. Do you
Lemon
remember that
Party.
One guy, one jar. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Bring back memories.
Just
Anyway,
by
back to the murder.
This is how I grew up.
So funny.
Just the dude picking shards of broken glass out of his bloody asshole.
Yeah.
Like, well, what made it more horrifying is he was super casual about it.
Just like, this is just my Tuesday.
He's like, there's shards of glass opening up my insides. What do you know?
C'est la vie.
What do you tell the hospital?
I sat on a jar and did a bath.
Listen, you're a doctor, I'm a patient, let's get this done.
Anyway.
They always told me that you have to store your sauerkraut in a cool, dark place.
Oh, no.
You guys are being grosser than my episode.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump on the bandwagon with this whole 3 guys, 1 hammer thing. Because I watched the 2 girls, 1 cup, and I also watched the dude with the jar. And I didn't really think much of it. So let's go ahead and see if this is another one of those sexual, freaky things that are bouncing around the web like a beach ball. It's not like the other videos. You can't even breathe. I'm seriously gonna get sick. Okay, it wasn't like the other videos. That much is for sure. Don't watch it. If you haven't seen it yet, don't watch it, because it seriously made me sick to my stomach to know that there's people like this. And I actually got to see it for myself. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen.
So, on the evening of July the 6th, there were 3 more people who were murdered.
Mm-hmm.
The first was a man named Igor Nechvolodya, who was recently discharged from the army, and he was bludgeoned while walking home from a nightclub.
Christ.
The next one was Yelena Shram, who was a 28-year-old security guard. According to Sechenko's, who was one of the murderers, taped confession, I'm just going to read this verbatim. As Shran walked toward them, Saprunik struck her with the hammer that he'd been hiding under his shirt and struck her several more times after she fell down. So she had been carrying a bag filled with clothes. The boys used the clothes in the bag to wipe off the hammer. So the next day, there were 2 14-year-old boys from a nearby town who were attacked as they went fishing. One of the 2 friends was killed, but the other one managed to escape. And then on July 12th, a 48-year-old man named Serhiy Yastenko he went missing while riding his motorcycle. His body was found 4 days later with signs of a savage attack visible after 4 days in the summer heat. So he got the shit beat out of him.
Hmm. It's strange that they're choosing people so much at random.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's completely random. Like you have a 28-year-old woman, a 48-year-old man. Like they're all over the place. They have no preference. They're just
no rhyme or reason.
Mm-hmm.
Just going out looking for someone.
Very opportunistic.
Yeah, just killing for the sake of killing. So 12 more murders followed, often with multiple bodies found on the same day. But yeah, they killed children, elderly people, homeless people, and drunk people.
And mostly with a hammer, right?
Yep, most of them were killed with a hammer, so they just would smash these people until they were dead.
What classification of murder would that be? Bludgeoning someone with a hammer?
I think it's mostly a murder for rage and recognition. Mm-hmm. Like they have a certain amount of rage inside them that they feel like they have to express. They don't care about doing something with the body. They don't care about getting revenge on the victim because they don't really know who their victim is.
They get ready about the bodies.
And the fact that they recorded it and uploaded it probably means they were looking for notoriety.
It feels like a shits and giggles sort of killing spree.
There's more on that.
It seems like their whole MO was kind of driven by convenience more than anything else.
Who reminds me of Luca Magnotta a little bit.
Yeah, kind of. We'll have to do an episode on him.
It's kind of like frill
You'll do an episode on him.
I'll do an episode on him. I like gross stuff.
Is it kind of like frill killing? Like just killing
thrill
for the
killing.
frill?
Yeah.
It's almost like sport, eh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's scary.
So many of the victims were also mutilated with their eyes gouged out, often while they were still alive. There was a pregnant woman who had her fetus cut from her womb.
Mm-hmm.
There were no sexual assaults, but lots of them were robbed. Their possessions were pawned at pawn shops in the area.
Because if you're going to kill them, you might as well rob them.
Mm-hmm.
Really, you're wasting your time.
I know. Psychologically, from the FBI from the FBI profiling books I've read, like when a killer desires to destroy the face, they want to own that person's identity.
Well, lots of these guys or these victims were bludgeoned to the face, leaving them completely unrecognizable.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because it seems like they always went for the face and they didn't care about anything else.
No.
Now here's a question: if someone has a pocket full of cash and you kill them, do they still own the cash? It's up for grabs, right? There's no second crime there.
It belongs to their estate
or their beneficiary.
Right. It goes to their next of kin.
Well,
I think.
Well, what about?
I guess.
Yeah, it would.
Depends on whether or not they have a will.
But what about the statute of finders keepers, losers losers?
Oh, I don't think there's such a thing when it comes to. I mean, I don't know estate law well.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure you got to give that money back to the estate. That's not for keeps.
I guess that was more like written on a rock caveman law.
Yes. You kill him, you got to keep his shit.
So there's no official link between all the murders until...
Wait, hold a second like that. We're backing this up because our next episode, we're going to be talking about this. Are we not, Ood? If you are a funeral director, right, and the suit they send you to put the body in is like stacked with hundreds, you don't get to keep that money. No, you don't. You got to give that back. Same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Unless
I would agree.
Want to be buried with the $100 bills.
That's kind of a dick move. Do people get buried with money?
I mean, people get.
I feel like there's got to be somebody, like some Scrooge McDuck motherfucker. It's like, I want to be buried in gold coins.
Yeah. It's my money. Nobody gets to have it.
Because I know the pharaohs used to do that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't.
Yeah. There was no friendship inn to donate to at the time. I figure that's kind of where you got to drop it off.
Yeah. Anyway, so there were no official link between the murders until that attack on those two 14-year-old boys, where the one of them survived. The survivor was initially placed under arrest because he was suspected of murdering his friend. He was reportedly denied counsel and beaten by police during questioning, which is classic Ukraine.
Oh, yeah.
But it quickly became clear that he was not responsible for the murder. He cooperated and was able to get sketches of the attackers. Several days later, there was a 45-year-old woman named Natalia Mamarchuk who was riding her scooter. She was passing through a wooded area. Two men approached her and knocked her down and bludgeoned her to death and stole her scooter. Apparently, there were a couple witnesses to that attack, but they lost sight of the two kids as they rode away. There were also two children who witnessed the attack. They were hidden in a tent. But they were able to provide a detailed description, which would match the one by the survivor kid, which is good. So they started kind of a manhunt to help find these murderers. There were reportedly over 2,000 investigators working this case because it was so terrible.
Wow.
Yeah. It was initially kept a secret, but rumors of the attacks kind of started, and eventually the investigators released sketches of stolen property to local pawn shops, and they were able to kind of track them down that way.
It's understandable why they dedicated so many resources, because this type of random spree killing where anybody could be a victim is just the recipe to start a public panic.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So the three suspects, Viktor Sayenko, Igor Saprudnik, and Alexander Hanza, were arrested on the 23rd of July in 2007 when Saprudnik was trying to sell a cell phone that he got from a victim to a local pawn shop.
Oh, jeez.
He was asking for 150 hryvnia, which was around $30 in 2007.
Half of these stories end with dumb shit like that.
Yeah, so he got busted by trying to sell a jacked phone.
Yeah.
Hanza was arrested at home, reportedly managing to flush other stolen mobile phones down the toilet.
That's not how you do it.
Nope.
Down the toilet.
Yeah.
That's got to be bad for your plumbing.
Maybe it was a squat toilet and you just dropped it down.
Interesting tidbit from a plumbing family. Flushing shit down the toilet is the single worst way to get rid of it, because you'd be goddamned how far down those pipes they can actually look before it dumps into the city sewer.
Oh, yeah, they got the phones back.
Oh yeah. There's tons of pipage there you can dig evidence out of.
Yeah, and they have people that whole jobs are to map where something may have came from.
Yeah.
So if they find a piece of trash, they can often locate it to a certain neighborhood.
That's wild.
At least with Western plumbing.
Yeah. The key is to burn it and pulverize the ashes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why they call them burners.
Yeah, it's true.
Or launch it into the sun.
Yes, clearly.
that's the most efficient way.
Yeah.
That's only an option for Elon Musk, though. So
For $300 million, we can make sure this phone never comes back.
Elon Musk or the world's strongest man.
I think there was a body in the trunk of that convertible he sent up there. Just
Probably.
saying.
Oh, my
Probably.
God.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So the 3 men were charged with 29 separate incidents, which were the 21 murders and 8 more attacks where the victims survived. Saprunik was charged with 27 of the cases, including 21 counts of capital murder, 8 armed robberies, and 1 count of animal cruelty. Chenko was charged with 25 instances, which were the 18 murders, 5 robberies, and 1 count of animal cruelty. And Hansa, as I mentioned, he was just charged with a couple counts of armed robbery.
Man, and those survivors are probably living a hellish life too.
Mm-hmm.
Because if their faces got caved and disfigured, like the front part of your face, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, that like those improve the quality of life. But really, that can all be crushed and destroyed, and you can still survive.
Yep.
So they may be living with just basically a couple of holes for a face.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt, but Ood, could you hook me up with some of this coffee at some point?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's fucking, I'm burping it up and it's delicious.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
It is delicious.
I'll send you home with a couple scoops.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. So all 3 of the boys confessed quickly, but Saprunik later withdrew his confession. He pled not guilty, and the other 2 guys pleaded guilty. Saprunik originally pleaded insanity, but it was not accepted.
I wasn't aware that you could just confess and then say, "Oh no, wait, I take it back."
Yeah, apparently in Ukraine you can. It is Ukraine.
It is Ukraine.
Yeah, there's been a few. We're gonna do an episode on false confessions in the future, and we'll go into why people may do that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So those 3 boys had attended school together, and they kind of started bonding at around age 14 when they found out that they were afraid of heights
And all fucking psychopaths.
Yeah, yeah, and were afraid that they would be beaten up by bullies.
How do you feel about bludgeoning? Oh, fuck, I love it.
I fucking love bludgeoning.
Fucking love it.
It's like top 3 things: eating, breathing, bludgeoning.
So
with a twist of animal cruelty on the side.
Yep. So Hansa was the most like squeamish of all of them. He had a blood phobia and even refused to bathe his pet kitten because he was afraid he would scald it. Hemophobia.
Sorry, that was one of the people involved.
Yeah, that was Hansa was the guy who just did the robberies.
Oh, okay.
But they were all like buddies from high school.
Let's get Richard Bigley on an episode about blood. That man will hit the floor. I'm so excited.
So Saprunik basically was like, hey, let's take care of your phobia by torturing stray dogs.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
So they would capture these dogs and like hang them from trees and disembowel them and take pictures next to the corpses. Like I looked at these pictures and they're really gross.
Come on.
They would draw swastikas and other symbols with animal blood.
You notice how no one gives a fuck about the human victims, but as soon as we're hanging dogs, everyone's like, oh,
I was just going to say, I'm very amused by myself that I'm so much more affected by this than like the people getting their faces caved in.
I know.
But I am. Here I am.
Yeah.
I just see animals as inherently innocent. So it's I think it hits me harder because of that.
No dog deserved to get hung ever in the history of the world.
No. There's a website called Does the Dog Die? And no, it's good. It like warns you if the dog is going to die, and you can decide if you want to watch the movie or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or like every Stephen King book.
Yeah. The dogs always die in
Stephen King kills dogs viciously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So these boys were not Nazis. Where lots of Ukrainians are pretty white nationalist.
Yeah.
Saprunik had a toothbrush mustache, like the Hitler mustache.
Oh no.
And he was also born on April 20th, which is Hitler's birthday, and he was like super stoked about that.
Of course.
I was born on the day Aha's #1 hit "Take on Me" dropped, and it's forever associated with my life.
You've been taking people on ever since.
Ever since.
Well, that's fun. There was a video showing the 3 torturing a kitten, and they showed it in court. It was in the garage. They basically fashioned a cross from wooden boards and nailed the kitten to it, and then shot it with a pistol, and they put glue in its mouth so that it wouldn't meow. Gross.
That's worse than the dog.
Ooh.
I know. Sorry.
Ooh. Yep. Feeling the rage.
Hey, boys and girls, animal cruelty is a real bad thing.
It is a real bad thing.
So don't do it.
No.
Just don't do it.
So after high school, the boys kind of drifted between jobs. Saprunik made a living driving his car as an unlicensed taxi.
No.
A couple months before the murder spree, the three boys were picking up passengers and robbing them.
In Ukraine, do you actually need a license for your taxi or for anything else?
I think
depends how many bribes you want to pay.
Yeah, exactly.
I rode in unlicensed taxis in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bad idea. You shouldn't do that.
I was drunk.
Get bludgeoned.
I bet they're cheap.
I did not get bludgeoned.
I bet they're cheaper than the licensed taxis.
Quite a bit cheaper, yeah. Even though regular taxis are really cheap.
If I was a poor
pay the price in other ways.
The unlicensed taxis in Cuba don't have brakes.
Oh no!
That's a trade-off. They're much cheaper, but you don't have to pay the braking fee of the regular taxi.
Oh, they have holes in the bottom. You just Flintstone it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my god! I have a cousin who's a taxi driver. Well, I don't think he's a taxi driver. He was a taxi driver, unlicensed movie maker. Oh, in Jamaica. So
yeah.
I don't know what he's doing now.
A dilettante.
Yeah.
I took a Cuban taxi once where the driver had to get out and pull the cord to get the engine to start, like a lawnmower.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Wow.
I want to be in a lawnmower car.
I think I don't.
No.
I'm good with not having been in a lawnmower car.
Cars are dangerous enough.
The aluminum foil doors rippled as we traveled down the street at 20 kilometers an hour.
It sounded like stage lightning.
So the local media found out that the boys all had wealthy and influential parents who had ties to law enforcement.
Mm.
So that was kind of gross.
Yeah.
And Sayenko's father was a lawyer who represented him.
Holy shit.
Isn't that a conflict of interest? Though?
Absolutely.
Is it really, though? Because his interest is only to represent his client.
But if your client's your son,
well, you're just going to represent him real hard.
That is absolutely a conflict of interest that I don't think most judges, at least in North America, would allow.
Well, not in North America.
Yeah.
I
So
mean-
this is the Ukraine.
Not the Ukraine, just Ukraine.
Actually, you might be surprised because
Okay.
I've been rewatching the To Catch a Predator series, and on one of them, one of the predators that was caught was represented by his lawyer mother.
Huh.
Interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe I guess I'm just talking.
And that
my
was
ass
in-
again. I've done that so many times on this show.
I think that was in Texas. I'm not sure.
oh, of course, Texas.
So they never really established a motivation behind the killings. One of the suspect's girlfriends said that they had planned to make 40 separate snuff films because someone was going to pay them to give this rich dude these videos, and he'd put them on the website, and you can make a ton of money.
Christ.
But there's a detective that said we think they were doing it as a hobby to have a collection of memories when they get old.
Oh, fuck.
Oh.
Jesus.
Yep, and the deputy interior minister commented, for these young men, murder was entertainment.
Holy fuck.
So they basically just did it. And also, at the trial, they found out that Saprunik had collected newspaper clippings about all the murders. And he had added captions like, the weak must die, the strongest will conquer.
When I go to places, I go to those machines that squish pennies with cool designs. I collect those.
Mm-hmm.
That's illegal, technically.
I collect sand from wherever I'd moved to, not morbid memories.
Not snuff films?
No.
I had once as like a young man, a small collection of pubic hairs from a girl I was dating at the time.
That's creepy.
Huh.
You should have made them into a paintbrush and like painted something for
Well,
her.
I'd find them in my bed and I would just put them in a little box on the bedside table.
Aw.
Once we broke up, I got rid of them because it was weird, but
Well, no, that's when you make them into like a voodoo.
voodoo doll, like pube doll.
Oh, goody.
The cops took their phones and computers and they found tons of videos of the murders. A video which was leaked to the internet showed that 48-year-old dude's murder, Serhiy Yazenko.
Mm.
He was seen, I'm going to read this verbatim. He is seen laying on his back in a wooded area and is struck repeatedly in the face with a hammer held inside a plastic bag. One attacker stabs Yazenko into the eye and abdomen with a screwdriver. He's struck with the hammer to ensure he is dead. The attack lasts over 4 minutes, during which the victim lapses in and out of consciousness. One murderer is seen smiling towards the camera during the videos. The murderers walk back to their car, showing that the crime took place close to the side of the road, next to their parked car. They discuss the murder calmly, expressing mild surprise that the victim was still breathing after a screwdriver had been plunged into his exposed brain.
Mm-hmm.
The suspects then washed their hands and the hammer with a water bottle and began to laugh.
The best way to kill someone is with a pillowcase full of brass doorknobs.
Is this personal experience?
No, but I've thought about it for a while, and like, a coroner's going to see that and think what? Because no one's going to think pillowcase full of brass doorknobs. As long as you flush them all down the toilet when you're done.
If you're in Ukraine.
You get them to be tackled by another one of them made of antimatter.
Sock full of pennies.
And the resulting
Sock full of oranges.
Yeah, I've heard that a bag of oranges is really effective.
It doesn't leave bruises.
Yeah.
I haven't personally tried it, but
I think I learned that on like The Simpsons or
yeah,
something.
maybe that seems right.
Yeah.
The boys, like the murderers, actually went to the funerals of the victims, and they took pictures of themselves like flipping off the coffins and the gravestones, which is super gross. And yeah.
Well, there's no way that you could do that and have any empathy for any human life besides your own.
Those gravestones are really expensive to fix.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they were imprisoned, obviously. Supranek and Seryenko were found guilty on the animal cruelty charges. Oh, this is interesting. Hansa, the third guy that just did the robberies, he said of Supranek and Seryenko, if I'd known the atrocities they were capable of committing, I would not have gone near them at gunpoint. Which is rich, considering he took part in the disemboweling of German shepherds.
Yeah, I really don't believe that he wasn't aware. He maybe had himself convinced otherwise, but
he may not have murdered people, but he was still a piece of shit.
Yeah.
When you're hanging animals and tearing them apart and all that, like, it can't be too much of a leap to go to killing people.
If you're that closely associated with crimes of that nature and like severity and
yeah. So as I said, they were sentenced, but the parents of the boys said that their sons were innocent and that they hadn't been able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they were guilty and that they were going to appeal it.
Said every parent ever.
Yeah. So they did appeal it in 2009 in August.
You're saying, Greg?
Yeah. Well, they're rich. Of course they're going to say that.
Yeah. Well, one of the dads was his lawyer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the Supreme Court of Ukraine upheld the life sentences passed on Igor and Victor, and Alexander Hansa did not appeal his 9-year sentence for the robberies and the animal cruelty.
Yeah, kind of just took the deal.
Yeah. There was also a copycat case in a place called Irkutsk. It's Russian. I'm not Russian. In 2011, there were a couple kids who they attacked a bunch of people with being mutilated with knives and bludgeoned, and they took videos and stuff too. But they were both sentenced to life in prison.
Jesus.
Hooray.
Did they kill anybody?
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah. So many gross people.
And they just wanted it for the thrill of the hunt? They wanted to be like their quote-unquote heroes?
Yeah, well, they chose weak people as their victims, so they chose them that way.
Yeah.
So, in conclusion...
Bad dudes.
Yeah, bad dudes. And there was no real rhyme or reason to their murders other than that one girlfriend saying that maybe they were going to get paid for these snuff films.
But even then, that doesn't necessarily speak anything to their selection process.
Exactly.
You know, some of these cases where like money or entertainment is the biggest motivator, some of them are the most ferocious in terms of body count.
Mm-hmm. 21 people were killed by these two kids in like a month and a half.
Yeah. And it wasn't to satisfy some dark urge, and it wasn't to like...
I'm sure they had dark urges.
Yeah. But it was a money-making venture.
Mm-hmm. Allegedly.
Well, and a hobby.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just,
That's messed up.
Yeah, they just had fun doing it.
Some people do needlepoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just
I do needle felting for fun.
Yeah.
I just play video games.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate, like, the image of the man in the story here, like, I watched the video in question where you see him struggling to breathe through a broken face and blood, and that's something that will never leave me.
No, that's gross. Don't watch it.
Yeah, like, even if you're, you know, a child of the internet and you've seen it all before, like, don't add one more horrible memory to your head.
You haven't seen this.
I grew up on the internet and everything. I've seen it all, and at this point in my life, I feel like I get enough of that stuff through my job that I don't really need to seek it out recreationally.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry.
Oh.
All right. The end.
It's okay. Thank you.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
For Occultae Veritatis, I've been Sage Murray.
Leon Filger.
Ood Gallifrey.
Joining us in studio.
Lord Loki.
And
Robot.
Awesome. All right. Well, love you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
And our palate cleanser for this episode is Wesley Willis by Richard There. See you in the after show.
Wesley Willis was a very big man. He sings about his troubles. He sings about the people he cares. He's my rock star.
Wesley Wills, Wesley Willis, Wesley Wills, Wesley Willis.
I also have my hell rights, but after you, I don't feel alone anymore. When I am in it, I think on you, and then I know it's going to have an end.
Wesley Wills, Wesley Willis, Wesley Wills, Wesley Willis.
I would like to meet you, but then you died. I understand that you also had to die, but I wish I would have seen you before. I saw a film about you. I like the way you speak. I like your friends, and I also like your bros.
Wesley Wills, Wesley Willis, Wesley Wills, Wesley Willis.
I would like to say thank you. I would like to smash my head on yours. Say rah, rah, say rah, rah, say rah, rah.
Wesley Wills, Wesley Willis, Wesley Wills, Wesley Willis.
Rock over London, rock of Chicago, rest in peace, my friend.
And coming down from the palate cleanser, once again, Oud Gallifrey.
And St. Mary.
Leon Filger.
For this one, we have 2 more emails. Now, these ones are a bit longer than most, so that's why we're saving it for this after show. All right, so who wants to read Orlith or Orlath?
Which one's that one?
Oh, I'll read that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is from Orlaith McGrath.
Oh, shit.
It's okay. I wanted to drop a line to say hello and let you all know that I've really enjoyed the podcast so far. I really like that you cover a wide variety of subjects, but honestly, the most appealing thing about the podcast is that it's 3 or more friends just hanging out and shooting the shit.
Yeah.
Fact.
It is true. I love the crake you have. I don't know what crake is. I love the crake you have together.
Oh.
Maybe that's a cool... tell us what that slang means.
Yeah.
You always put a smile on my face, even when the subject matter is kind of gruesome. I'm looking at you, Sage. Yeah, sorry. I'm currently listening on Spotify, but I was wondering, is there a best way to listen to you, i.e. one that makes you more visible to other potential listeners? Spotify has only started doing podcasts relatively recently, in Ireland at least, so most people don't look there for new things to listen to.
There's not really a way to listen that increases visibility, because the way that the back end of podcasting works is no matter where someone listens, it counts on our end as a download. Mm-hmm. The best thing you can do, above all, is telling your friends, family, enemies about us.
Or give us the 5-star reviews on iTunes.
Yeah, that helps put us up as well.
1 star if you think we suck.
Yeah, because I know podcasting seems like a very casual environment, but the fact is there's 500,000 podcasts out there, and unless people find out that you exist, sometimes you just don't get listened to. So the best thing you can do is just tell a friend, tweet us out, shout.
Yeah, that's really the best way. And we are really appreciative to be getting into all of your ear holes.
Oh, yeah. If you even take just a couple minutes to listen to us or talk to us, really that helps keep us going. That's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this next email is 5 paragraphs long. My God.
Yes.
This is intense. It's from Atrophonian. Or Atrophonian?
Oh, they're from Saskatoon.
Yep.
From Saskatoon.
Cool.
Greeting hosts and hail Val.
Nice.
Peace be upon her.
Yeah, peace be upon her.
Peace be upon her.
I had your podcast on my radar for a while, but I listened to so many, I basically had to force yours into my rotation.
Yeah, and I know that feeling.
Oh, yes.
I'm very glad I did. Starting with the Shell-like Massacre, and now I'm about to binge your earlier work. It's good stuff.
It is good stuff.
Go for it. Finding out that you're also local Saskatoonians has also helped spur my own desire to be creative. Since finishing university and becoming a library technician, I hadn't had the urge to write or create anything. Blogging, writing, even podcasting is on my list of something I'd like to do, though the latter feels more ambitious than I'd be ready to do on my own. Well, fuck, come on as a guest.
Come on as a guest.
Fuck yeah. Feedback at ovpod.ca.
Oui.
I love that you all cover a myriad topics, and I get to hear about things I would never have looked into, as well as ones I've already heard of, but now want to hear your take on them. Recent episodes, like Weinstein and the incel community, are topics that I wouldn't normally dive into, but I'm glad that you talk about them, as ignorance of them is likely more harmful than not. Fact. I was surprised to learn how much of yourselves you're willing to talk about, and your growth as a result of your life experiences and the topics you cover. Ood, in particular, gives me hope for humanity after hearing a little of his former life and embracing myself to go back and listen to the ECT episode, knowing that Leon will talk about his experiences with something I know virtually nothing about aside from pop visual media.
Yeah.
Fact. Go for it. Going outside my comfort zone is certainly a perk of listening to your podcast. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Long story short, I want to thank you all for your work, if you consider it work. We kind of do, kind of not.
Yeah, it's mostly fun.
It's mostly fun that you're doing, and I wish you the best in your future endeavors. I'll budget a little cash in the near future to contribute to your Poison Stash Fund. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And fuck, come on as a guest if you like us.
Come on as a guest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess talking about me opening up, I figure that all the bullshit that I've been through in the past, the only value I can get out of it nowadays is talking about it.
Exactly.
So that I'm trying to do right by that, because there's a lot of atoning I have to make up for.
Well, we've talked about it before. Neither Leon nor I would have been friends with you back in in those days. Right?
I wouldn't have been friends with me. I was a shithead.
Yeah, but now you're amazing. So
oh boy,
you're pretty dope.
I'm doing the bare minimum. I'm not a total asshole to minorities and women and shit. So,
well, we love you.
We love you.
Alrighty. So, feeling the love in the room with the after show. I'm Ood Gallifrey.
Sage Murray.
Leon Filger.
Thank you very much for listening, and have a good night.
Love
Cheers.
you. Bye.
There we go.
Cool.